Good day. Good day, year 12s. Mrs. George here again. I'm on page 45 today, and I'm going to read chorus. Speak up for your children now, dear Queen. Speak up for your country. Show her arguments for what they are. Fluent but wicked. She is a dangerous woman. So here the chorus leader, after listening to Helen's defense, implores to Hecuba to actually break down the bigotry of this lady, this Helen, of this well-spoken but wicked woman. So, like Hecuba, the chorus leader also believes that Helen is actually lying and that she is duplicitous and she is like a woman who actually failed to uphold her obligations to her husband and even has got no reservations about lying. So they clearly know that all the Trojan women like the chorus, actually know how wicked Helen is. She is a dangerous woman. And the chorus leader says that Helen is actually a dangerous woman, fluent, but she is so wicked. Now, Hecuba. One more thing before that, like Hecuba, the chorus leader believes Helen to be actually lying and duplicitous. So that is really important because the chorus is actually the voice of the Trojan women. So the whole Trojan women actually believes that Helen is duplicitous and that she is wicked. So that's also important. Now moving on to Hecuba. Now Hecuba actually begins her rebuttal here. So she is trying to defend and she begins her rebuttal. First, I shall speak for the goddesses and expose this woman's slanders for the rubbish they are. The gods are not fools. Hera and the virgin Pallas would never have perpetrated such acts of brainless stupidity. Would Hera ever sell her own city of Argos to the barbarians? Or could Pallas conceivably allow Athens to come under foreign domination simply for the sake of a game? If they went to Mount Ida at all for mere childish amusement and the vanity of beautiful women, why should Hera so suddenly fall victim to an insatiable craving to be thought beautiful, to get a more aristocratic husband for herself than Zeus? And is Athena now on the lookout for a husband among the gods? Her hatred for marriage is well known. She pleaded with her father for eternal virginity, and he granted it. Don't attempt to disguise your own wickedness by accusing the immortals of such stupidity. So Hecuba here actually begins her rebuttal by defending the gods first, because she is actually skeptical that Hera and Athena were contestants in a godly beauty contest in which Helen claims Paris won her hand. She is very doubtful about it. So Hecuba is actually trying to defend gods, and she is trying to say the gods are not foolish. They're not fools. Hera and Virgin Pallas, the Virgin Pallas refers to Athena. Hera and the Virgin Pallas would never have perpetrated, they would never have committed such acts of brainless stupidity. They are not so fools. Would Hera ever sell her own city of Argos to the barbarians? So Helen has been saying that Hera was ready to bribe by promising to give the city of Argos to the barbarians. So Hecuba is here asking, would Hera ever sell her own city of Argos to the barbarians? Will she ever do that? Is she so foolish? And next, he talks about Athena. Or could Pallas conceivably allow Athens to come under foreign domination simply for the sake of a game? Do you think that they are fools so that they will give their own city for the sake of a game? For the sake of a game which is like a beauty contest? If they went to Mount Ida at all for mere childish amusement and the vanity of beautiful women, why should Hera so suddenly fall victim to an insatiable craving to be thought beautiful? Why do you think Hera will fall into such kind of a trap? To get a more aristocratic husband for herself than Zeus? Who else she wants? She has got already an aristocratic husband like Zeus. Do you think she is going to get she is doing all this to get a more aristocratic husband for herself than Zeus? And is Athena now on the lookout for a husband among the gods? Do you think Athena is looking out for a husband now among the gods? Her hatred for marriage is well known. Athena's hatred for marriage is well known. And she even pleaded with her husband for eternal virginity and that has been already granted to her. Then why does she look for husbands? Don't attempt to disguise your own wickedness by accusing the immortals of such stupidity. And Hecuba finally finishes off her defense, especially just with the part of the god, by saying that Helen, don't attempt to disguise your own wickedness by accusing the immortals of such stupidity. We are not so fools. Gods are not so fools to do these kinds of things. So please don't attempt to disguise your own mistakes by accusing the mortals of such stupidity. Now Hecuba continues, no sensible person will be taken in, and Aphrodite herself, you say, and then there is a dash, this is ludicrous, laughable, came with my son to Menelaus' house. So now Hecuba is saying it aloud, and she says that no sensible person will be taken in. And Aphrodite herself, you say, and you said, Helen, you said Aphrodite herself, and then there is a dash, and that dash signifies maybe like an afterthought. Hecuba says that, and then she laughs. This is ludicrous, laughable. Came with my son to Menelaus' house? Are you saying that Aphrodite, with my son, who is Hecuba's son, Paris, with my son, came to Menelaus' house? Is that what you're trying to say? Is it likely? She could have stayed at home on Olympus. Olympus is actually the mythical home of Greek gods in Greek mythology. So Hecuba says that she could have stayed. She could have stayed at home on Olympus and taken you, the royal palace at Amyclae, the whole lot to Ilium with the merest gesture if she wanted to. But that wasn't it. So Aphrodite, if she wants, she could even do anything. She is so powerful. She could have stayed at her own home, and she could have, with the merest gesture, she could have taken the whole lot if she wanted to, but it wasn't. She could have stayed at home and taken you, the royal palace, even to her own home. But that wasn't it. So here again, Hecuba is trying to say that gods are not so foolish. Gods are not so foolish as Helen says. Now that's all the defend about the gods, and now Hecuba moves on. My son had the sort of good looks women run mad for. You were wet with lust the moment you saw him. That was your Aphrodite. And doesn't everyone dignify their appetite and stupidity by invoking the goddess's name, blaming her? Sensuality and senselessness have more in common than a first syllable. The moment you saw him in his exotic oriental dress and dripping with gold, you lost your head completely. Life in Sparta was austere by comparison, but once Sparta was behind you, you saw yourself drowning in an ever flowing river of Phrygian gold, submerging the whole city under a tidal wave of riotous expense. They were too bleak a stage for you, the bare rooms of Menelaus' palace, to overplay your fantasies of luxury and indulgence. So now here Hecuba says that now my son had the look of good looks, sort of good looks women would run mad for. My son was actually beautiful. So you were actually wet with the lust the moment you saw him. So here Hecuba is actually trying to blame Helen and say that it's all because of her lust. So while Helen claimed that she was actually dazzled by Aphrodite's power, here Hecuba is trying to propose that Helen was actually dazzled by Paris's look and wealth. So that's what Hecuba is trying to say. So it's not because of the power of Aphrodite, it's all because Helen was actually dazzled by Paris's look and wealth. And doesn't everyone dignify their appetite and stupidity by invoking the goddess's name, blaming her? Sensuality and senselessness have more in common than a first syllable. So Hecuba makes it clear that the desire for sensual pleasures, the sensuality, and even the senselessness, they have more in common than a first syllable. The moment you saw him in his exotic oriental dress and as he was dripping with gold, you lost your head completely. You fall in love and you were so lustful because my son Paris was smart and beautiful and he was attractive. Moreover, he was wealthy. So when you saw him in his oriental dress, exotic oriental dress, and when you saw him dripping with gold, you completely lost your head. That's what has actually happened. That's Hecubas trying to make it clear. Life in Sparta was austere by comparison, but once Sparta was behind you, you saw yourself drowning in an ever flowing river of Phrygian gold, submerging the whole city under a tidal wave of righteous expense. So here Hecuba says that Helen will be always in the winning side. Wherever there is power, Helen will be standing with them. So once Sparta was behind you, you saw yourself drowning in ever-flowing river of Phrygian goals. So when Sparta, when it had its austerity, you were supporting them. But now, after that, when Sparta was behind you, you saw yourself drowning in an ever-flowing river of Phrygian gold, submerging even the whole city under a tidal wave of riotous expense. They were too bleak a state for you, the bare roofs of Menelaus' palace, that was so bleak, to overplay your fantasies of luxury and indulgence. And then, my son, you say, dragged you off. Now she's coming to the next argument. Now, Helen actually said that she was actually dragged out of her own place. Now, that's what Hecuba is trying to talk about here. Now, my son, you say, dragged you off by force. That's your version of the story. So your version of the story actually said that my son, Paris, dragged you. Which one of the Spartans saw this happen? Now Hecuba is questioning. Which one of the Spartans have actually witnessed this? Were there no witnesses? Don't they have any witness who have actually seen this? How loudly did you scream? Did you scream at all when my son dragged you? How loudly did you scream? Your brother Castor was a young man, still alive, still living there with his twin. Neither of them had yet been transformed into heavenly bodies and taken their places among the stars. Your brother was there. Your brother Castor was there. He hasn't been. He was not. He hasn't dead. That's what she actually says. Neither of them had yet been transformed into heavenly bodies and taken their places among the stars. No one is dead and gone. Your brother was actually there to support you. Did you not cry? Did you not scream? And take their places among the stars. And when you arrived in Troy with the Greek army hot on your heels and the battles begun, if news reached you that this man's divisions had fought a successful engagement, O Menelaus, no praise was too good for him, so that my son ran mad with jealousy and despair, that his rival in love had the upper hand. But if the Trojans won the day, Menelaus, pooh, what was he? He was nothing. Yes, you always kept a very beady eye on the main chance. You would make sure you were on the winning side. Loyalty, duty, love. Not worth that much to you, any of it. So Hecuba makes it clear that Helen always had a beady eye on the main chance. What do you mean a beady eye? An eye that gleams with malice. You always had a beady eye on the main chance. You would make sure you are on the winning side. You always make sure that you are on the winning side. And loyalty, duty, love, these three words is not worth that much to you. You never take care of these words. You never take it seriously, these words. Loyalty, duty, and love. And not worth that much of you, not worth that much to you, any of it. So that's what Hecuba is actually blaming Helen here, criticizing Helen. So the whole tone of that passage is criticism and the hatred for Helen. That's what we could see from Hecuba's part. So I think that part is a bit more, I think I need to speak a bit more about that particular part where Hecuba says, and when you arrived in Troy with the Greek army hot on your heels and the battles begun, so when the battle actually began, if news reached you that this man's divisions had fought a successful engagement, O Menelaus, no praise was too good for him, so that my son ran mad with jealousy and despair that his rival in love had the upper hand. So here Helen, furthermore here, Hecuba accuses Helen of praising Menelaus to Paris when the Greeks actually win. When Greeks are winning, she will actually praise Menelaus. But she will fawn over Paris when the Trojans were ahead. So that's how she is. So that's what Hecuba says here. If news reached that this man's divisions had fought a successful engagement, O Menelaus, no praise was too good for him, so that my son ran mad with jealousy and despair, that his rival in love had the upper hand. But if the Trojans won the day, Menelaus, who? What was he? He was nothing. Menelaus is nothing at that stage if Trojan wins. So that's why Hecuba actually accuses Helen, always making sure that Hecuba accuses Helen that she always makes sure that she is on the winning side. She is always ready to take the winning side. And that's why finally Hecuba concludes by saying that loyalty, duty, and love, that these words not worth that much to you. These are not words to you guys, not words to Helen, especially Helen. And as for this story of yours, how desperate you were to escape. Now she's coming on to the next part. The next part was Helen's argument was she tried to escape. So now Hecuba is trying to defend on that thing, that particular story. And as for this story of yours, how desperate you were to escape. Have you lowered yourself by rope from the city walls, as if we kept you here against your will? Well, how many times may I ask, were you caught in the act of hanging yourself or sharpening a knife to cut your own throat, things any woman of breeding and nobility would be expected at least to attempt if she were truly grieving for her former husband? Now, Hecuba is actually questioning Helen and asking her, now, did you even try to escape? Have have you lowered yourself by rope from the city walls as if we kept you here against your will? So you were saying that we actually kept you here against your will. Well, if that is the case, how many times may I ask you, were you caught in the act of hanging yourself or sharpening a knife to cut your own throat? Things any woman of breeding or nobility would be expected at least to attempt. If you are a person of nobility, if you are a decent woman, you would have at least tried to kill yourself in such a situation. You would try hanging yourself or sharpening a knife to cut your own throat. How many times did you try even taking your own life? That is what a noble woman would even try and do. So a decent woman, Hecuba says, would have killed herself. But have you even tried that? Not you. I have lost count of the times I said to you, listen, daughter, you should get out of here. My son can find other women easily enough. I will help you to escape in secret. I will arrange an escort for you to the Greek ships, and so we will make an end of this pointless slaughter of Greeks and Trojans. Now, Hecuba says that I have lost count of the times I have told my daughter in law, Helen, that look, my daughter, you should get out of here. My son will get a new woman. Easily enough. I will help you to escape from this place. Hecuba has said many times that she would help her to escape from this place very secretly. And she even said that she will arrange an escort for Helen to the Greek ships. And so that they could make an end to this pointless slaughter of the Greeks and Trojans. And Hecuba says that she has lost count of times that she has advised her daughter-in-law, her Helen, these things. But that was not all the kind of thing you had in mind. But you never had that thing in mind. So what you could actually see here is, shockingly, Hecuba would prefer to see Helen harm herself or Paris, Hecuba's own son, than to sit in complacency in Troy. Than to sit complacently in Troy. So this complacency in Hecuba's mind represents Helen's betrayal of her first husband, who is actually Menelaus. Although Menelaus is Hecuba's enemy, she says that still deserved the affection of his wife. Menelaus still deserved the affection of his wife. But here, Hecuba makes it clear that Helen preferred to be complacent. Helen preferred to be complacent and be in Troy. Now, next few lines. But that was not all the kind of the thing you had in mind. In Alexander's palace, your most arrogant whim could be indulged. You loved nothing better than seeing Asiatics prostrating themselves at your feet. You just loved this place only because you would love to see. You were so arrogant and you loved to see the Asiatic people prostrating themselves at your feet. And how that mattered to you, how important it made you feel. you are an arrogant person, and you are thinking about only how important you were in women in city of Troy, how the Asiatics actually prostrated themselves and did everything for you. Your proud was actually um, making you to do all these things. So, and how that mattered to you, how important it made you feel, that was the main thing that you were actually thinking. So that was in your mind. Hecuba continues, and even now you dare to parade yourself like this, wearing makeup, your hair brushed, with your best dress on, brazenly confronting your husband in open air under the eye of heaven. You are worthless. Respectable women spit at you in contempt. If you had any decency in you at all, you would have come here on your knees in rags, shaven headed, and shivering with fear, prepared to humiliate yourself with every kind of self abasement and shame for the wicked things you have done. So Hecuba makes it very clear that now, look at you now, even now, you dare to parade yourself like this. You like to show off. You have come here wearing makeup, your hair is neatly brushed you have put on your best dress, brazenly confronting your husband in the open air, under the eye of heaven. You are worthless. Respectable women actually will spit at you in contempt. That's what Hecuba says. And she says that if you had any decency in you at all, you would have come here on your knees in rags. Anyone would have expected Helen to come here on her knees and begs, especially in rags, shaven headed and shivering with fear, because she has done such a bad thing, such a wrong thing. She has betrayed her own husband, betrayed her own homeland. So, shaven headed and shivering with fear, prepare to humiliate yourself with every kind of self abasement and shame for the wicked things you have done. But still, even after doing all these wicked things, you are here, fully dressed, parading yourself, showing off your beauty. So that's what Hecuba tries to point out here. So basically, Hecuba is painting an image of Helen who is actually unfaithful, who is always unfaithful. That's what Hecuba is trying to paint. That kind of an image is what Hecuba is trying to paint on Helen. Now Hecuba is turning towards Menelaus and saying, Menelaus, you can see what I'm getting at. My arguments all point the same way. Consummate the Greek victory by killing your wife. Death is what she deserves. And other women will learn from her example that wives who betray their husbands must expect to die for it. So Hecuba is actually worried that Menelaus will actually let Helen live. And that's why Hecuba is trying to encourage Menelaus to do his duty, not just for himself, but for the whole nation. And she says that consummate, bring or complete your duty, bring to perfection your duty, the Greek victory. So let us bring the completion of the Greek victory by killing your wife. Make sure that you're killing your wife, Helen, the Greek victory by killing your wife. Death is what she deserves. She deserves death. And other women will actually learn from her example that wives who betray their husbands must actually expect to die for it. So here she is actually concluding, Hecuba is actually concluding her speech with the plea to Menelaus that he should kill Helen because death is what she deserves. And further, she suggests that by doing so, by doing this action of killing Helen, he will actually reinforce patriarchal power, as she will become an example of what happens to wives who actually betray their husband. So by killing her wife, he could actually reinforce the patriarchal power. So that's why Hecuba is trying to motivate Menelaus by saying that death is what she deserves. She deserves death. And also, the reason why Hecuba says so is because Hecuba is really worried. Hecuba worries that Menelaus will fall in love back again with Helen. And that's why she wanted to encourage and motivate Menelaus by telling that at least by doing this, you will be able to reinforce the patriarchal power. So hopefully, Hecuba is trying to get into this point so that so that she could actually motivate Menelaus to kill Helen. Now, page 48, chorus. Menelaus, punish your wife in a way worthy of the traditions of your family. Rescue the reputation of Greek womanhood by the nobility of your revenge. Now, the chorus, the group of women of Troy, they are actually supporting with Hecuba, and they say that Menelaus, you have to punish your wife because because if you're doing that, that will be worthy of the traditions of your family. You could actually you will be actually proud. You could be really proud of the traditions of your family. Rescue the reputation of the Greek womanhood by the nobility of your revenge. By taking this noble revenge, show the reputation of the Greek womanhood and prove that the Greek women are not like this. So you will be able to prove the reputation of Greek womanhood. That's what the chorus indicates. Now, Menelaus, your conclusions are exactly the same as my own. That this woman left my house of her own free will to go to bed with a foreigner. Now, Menelaus makes it really clear that, yes, my conclusion is exactly the same as yours. That this woman actually left my house of her own free will to go to a bed with a foreigner. To drag in Aphrodite is a mere smokescreen of pretentious self-importance. Even Menelaus understands that. And Menelaus says that to bring in Aphrodite into this particular scene or into this particular scenario it's just a mere smokescreen of pretentious self-importance. Take her away. Let her face death in the stoning pit. So we could see the commanding power of Menelaus here. Take her away. Let her face death in the stoning pit. You can atone for the 10 years suffering of the Greeks with an hour of dying, or however long it takes, that will teach you what it costs to humiliate me. So now Menelaus says that you can atone for the 10 years of suffering of the Greeks with an hour of dying, or however long it takes. And that second half is really important. That actually shows that Menelaus have not actually decided to kill her here soon with an hour. He is actually maybe thinking about other plans to take her back home, however long it takes. So I'm actually worried about that second half, however long it takes. That will teach you what it costs to humiliate me. And again, Menelaus is a bit self-centered there, and he says that you have humiliated me, and so this will cost you for that. Now, Helen, I beg you on my knees, I implore you, don't kill because the gods are deceased. Now, again, here Helen is blaming gods and saying that don't kill me because the gods are deceased. It is the gods who are deceased. It's the gods who have created all this problem. Don't kill me for that. So, stressing on that point, Hecuba. Remember all your friends who are dead, murdered by this woman. On my knees, I beg you, remember. So, see, got two versions of two types of women there. One is Helen, who is unfaithful and begging to her husband not to kill her. And Hecuba on the other side, the stereotype of the Hellenic woman. And she remembers here, and she says that, remember all your friends who are dead. You shouldn't be forgetting about all the people, all the Spartans who have died, murdered just by this woman, just because of this woman. Many people have died. Don't forget about them. On my knees, I beg you, remember, don't forget. Because Hecuba is continuously reminding Menelaus not to forget, because Hecuba clearly know that Menelaus will forget one day. He will fall back into that lust. And uh, Hecuba knows about Menelaus. That's why she's trying to say that. Menelaus, all right, old woman, that will do. I'm not listening to her. I'm speaking to my staff. Take her to where the ships have moved. We are sending her back home. Okay, now Menelaus is saying that now, woman, that's enough. That's enough of that. Enough of your conversation here. Take her. I'm going to talk to my staff now. Take her to the ships. We are sending her back home. We are taking her back home to Sparta. Hecuba, at that point, Hecuba says that don't travel in the same ship with her. Hecuba is like gives Menelaus or warns Menelaus, don't travel with her again. Back on your way back, don't travel together, because Hecuba clearly know how Helen is going to behave. Helen is so unfaithful and she could manipulate anyone. And that's why Hecuba says, don't travel. When you go back, please don't travel in the same ship with her. Menelaus, why? Has she put on weight? Will she sink it? So he's taking it in a different way, and Menelaus is asking why? Has she put on weight? Will she sink it? And then Hecuba says, once a lover, always besotted. Once a lover, always besotted. Besotted in the sense marked by foolishness or unreasoning fondness. So once a lover, it's always besotted. So Hecuba clearly actually fears that this will happen. That Athenian audience would have understood this irony. That's actually an irony because Athenian audience would have understood this irony, and, and Helen's ultimate success juxtaposed with the tragic suffering of Andromache actually suggests that rational moral contact is actually futile for women. Look at the comparison between Helen, who is unfaithful. On the contrast, Andromache is a very faithful woman who loved her husband and did all for her husband. And look at that contrast. And here, who is winning? The unfaithful lust is actually winning here. Helen is winning. And look at Andromache. She has been so good. She has been so nice to her husband, and all that has been futile. So the Athenian audience, Euripides is trying to give or is trying to make the audience to reflect about their own stance and their own position and who is winning at the end. So it's like a thought given to the Athenian audience. So Hecuba says that once a lover, always besotted. Menelaus, no, a sensible man loves someone worthy of his love. However, I shall do as you say. So here Menelaus says that no, a sensible man loves someone worthy of his love. So now we could see Menelaus' arrogance here. Menelaus is so arrogant, and he says that I'm a sensible man. A sensible man's love someone. A sensible man loves someone who is actually worthy of his love. I'm not such a fool. And Menelaus' arrogant claim is actually revealed as laughably misguided because it's common knowledge that he will ultimately succumb to the sexual allure of his wife once more. Even the audience know that. So that is actually, it's like an arrogant claim. A sensible a sensible man loves someone worthy of his love. However, I shall do as you say. We won't go on board the same ship. A reasonable precaution. When we arrive in Argos, she will be punished as she deserves. She is a wicked woman, and she will endure a terrible death. That will be a warning to all women in the future to be chaste and moral in their behavior. That's by no means an easy lesson to teach, but the manner of her death will terrify the most frivolous of females or others who might be tempted to be even more degraded than she is. So here Menelaus actually agrees that Helen is a wicked woman and that she will endure a terrible death. That she will be that and Menelaus also says that this will be actually a warning to all women in the future to be really chaste and moral in their behavior, especially in their married life. But the manner of her death will terrify even the most frivolous of females or others who might be tempted to be even more degraded than she is. So Menelaus still consider some other women who is more degraded than Helen. So what does it indicate? Maybe Menelaus is trying to indicate that Helen is not that bad. Like you guys can you guys can interpret it in your own ways, but it's up to you to interpret. Now, exent, Helen and Menelaus. Exent is actually the plural for exit because two people are exiting. Helen, Menelaus, more than two. Helen, Menelaus, and gods. Chorus. So this is actually third Stasimon, and here you could see chorus. O Zeus, our eyes are open now. You have betrayed us to the Greeks, the great temple of Ilium, the flames that glow eternally on the altar of offerings, the sweet pillars of smoke that rise to heaven, the incense thick in the air, even the sanctuary of Pergamon, the sacred mountain of Ida, where the melted snow leaps in torrents down the ivy-covered slopes, and first light flushes the eastern crest of dawn's handmaiden. The beauty of ritual is destroyed. All the sacrifices are over. No more hushed singing of sacred psalms, watch night services, Vigils from first dark till dawn. No carrying of images cast in gold to the festivals of the 12 moons of Troy. So now here, Chorus is actually addressing Zeus to directly to lament the city's destruction and its abandonment by the gods. So it's more like addressing the gods, and that particular literary technique is called epistrophe. Doesn't mean the epistrophe that you're putting to show the position. Here, epistrophe means the address. So addressing someone, especially someone who is not on stage, addressing a third person. So here, the chorus is actually addressing gods, especially Zeus. So that apostrophe actually allows the chorus to convey the full extent of their sense of betrayal by Zeus. They are trying to say that God, Zeus, especially you have betrayed us to the Greeks. So blaming gods, you have betrayed us to the Greeks. The great temple of Ilium, the flames that glow eternally on the altar of offerings, nothing is there now. There's no ritual now. The beauty of ritual is destroyed. All the sacrifices are over. There's no more hushed singing, no more sacred sounds, no more watch night services. There is not even, we couldn't even see carrying the images of the gods and goddesses fully cast in gold to the festivals, because usually for the procession in festivals they'll be taking the gods statues with full of gold. So we won't be seeing all that now. All the sacrifices are over. A shadow falls like an ice in my heart. And chorus says that a shadow falls like ice in my heart. Heart, is really warm. Here, ice, contrasting of that, a shadow falls like ice in my heart. It's a beautiful simile. And that simile is actually showing a deep sense of hurt. Through that simile, Euripides is conveying a deep sense of hurt. A shadow falls like ice in my heart. Do you care on your radiant throne? Do you even care about us on your radiant throne in the heavens? Do you care on your radiant throne in the heavens? Do you even remember, King of gods, that we exist? Zeus, the King of gods, do you even remember that we exist? While the very air explodes around us and fire reduces our city to ashes and stone. Do you even remember us? Did you completely forget us? So here, the chorus actually speaks of a world which is divided into three worlds. You could see the three worlds. The first world is, do you care on your radiant throne in the heaven? So where are the gods? In heaven. So that's one level of the world. And then, do you even remember, King of gods, that we exist while the very air explodes around us and fire reduces our city to ashes and stones? So that is the second level, which is the earth. So gods in heaven, and the people, especially the women of Troy and all the Trojans, earth, and that has completely exploded. Fire reduced our city to ashes and stone. And then third world, so third level is, oh my love, my husband, you are dead. You are out there somewhere, unwashed, unburied. That reference to the underworld. So three levels of the world. So the husbands of chorus, the husbands of Trojan women, they have dead and gone. Oh, my love, my husband, you are dead. You are out there somewhere, unwashed, unburied. Unwashed and unburied, you are there. So that's the underworld. So chorus actually speaks of the world as divided into three levels. The heights where the gods live, the heights, the heavens where the gods reside, the earth where the people live, and finally the underworld where the people who are dead actually are. And that is chorus is actually trying to show these three levels, or these three levels in a world. Oh my love, my husband, you're dead. You are out there somewhere, unwashed, unburied. Your poor ghost wanders aimlessly in the dark, and your ghosts, they are wandering aimlessly in the dark. And ships will carry me over the sea, their fast oars beating like wings, and the Greek ships, the Spartan ships, they will be carrying us across the sea. So we are actually spread, we are scattered throughout the Greece, and ships will carry me over the sea, their fast oars beating like wings. Another simile there, and the beautiful boat imagery. Their fast oars beating like wings to the city of the horse breeders, Argos, whose great stone walls are the work of the Cyclops and seem to touch the sky. But our children, a great crowd of them, weep and moan down by the gates, clinging desperately to their mothers, all their pain, screaming and tears to no avail. So we will be taken away. We'll be taken to taken to the Greece. But our children, a great crowd of them, they are actually children are going to be here, Greek children. But our children, a great crowd of them, they weep and moan down by the gates, clinging desperately to their mothers, all their pain, screaming and tears to no avail. There's no use of all those. It's all useless. Their screams and tears are useless. No one is listening. So Euripides is actually trying to show the senselessness and hopelessness of war, how war actually affects women and children, the innocent people. Mother, they saw, the Greeks will haul me away to their black ships. I shall be all alone, and the sea-going oars will sweep me across to sacred Salamis, or to where between two seas the Acropolis of Corinth guards Pelops' doors. So, mother, they sob, they'll be sobbing, the children will be sobbing and crying. The Greeks will haul me away at that time, and to their black ships I shall be all alone, and I will be taken to Greece. I have one wish. So here they actually sing to the chorus is actually singing to their dead husbands who is actually wandering like ghosts, and they imagine that their journeys across the ocean, as they are scattered throughout Greece, that um, they will be able to maybe see, or don't know whether they'll be able to see together. They also sing of Menelaus' ship. They hope a bolt of Zeus's lightning will hit and sink it with Helen abroad. That's what we're going to see next. Let us look into that. I have one wish, what that when Menelaus' ship is in the open sea with a terrifying thunderclap from the hand of Zeus, it will be struck by lightning amidships, right between the oars and far out in the Aegean. I shall be in tears, then exiled from Troy, dehumanized, reduced to a thing that slaves for the Greeks, while Helen peers like a self-regarding schoolgirl in her mirrors of gold, admiring her good looks. My wish for her's soon told. Dear gods, let her never come safe home to Sparta, never repossess that bedroom in her own house and hearth, never come again to the village of Pythian, as once she could no re-enter Athena's temple with the great bronze door. This woman, whose promiscuity shamed breeze and stained the pure waters of Simois with blood. So the women of Troy, they are actually hoping that a thunderbolt of Zeus's lightning should actually will actually hit and sink the Greek spot with Helen aboard. So they and like the audience knew that because in prologue we actually heard it from Poseidon and Poseidon and Athena as well. So although they believe that the gods have actually deserted them, the women of Troy they continue to pray to them. Why do you think so? Even after they feel that the gods have betrayed, they still pray to the gods. Maybe because their fortunes fell so rapidly, they actually recognized that the fortunes of their captors could also just be like that, as unpredictable. So they have still a hope, just as if their situation were unpredictable. They actually believe that the captors could also just fall so unpredictably. That might be the reason why they are still crying, and they are wishing. I have one wish, that when Menelaus' ship is in the open sea, with a terrifying thunderclap from the hand of Zeus, as I told you, Zeus is god of lightning and thunder and everything. It will be struck by lightning amid ships, right between the oars and far out in the Aegean. So here Chorus agrees with Hecuba, and even Menelaus that Helen should be punished. So it's a revenge. We could see the revenge, and it's also because of their own sufferings that they are thinking so. I shall be in tears, then exiled from Troy, dehumanized, reduced to a thing that slaves for the Greeks. So at that moment, the women of Troy, the chorus says that we will be in tears. I'll be exiled from Troy, dehumanized, reduced to a thing. So here, The women's lament, we could see that the chorus is lamenting about Troy first, and that lament now turns to their own circumstances. Their description of being exiled from Troy, dehumanized, reduced to a thing, that slaves of the Greeks, and even they are saying that the children screaming, all these exhibits the depth of their fear and revenge, and they voice their one great wish. So it's all showing their anger and the fear. They have got both fear and anger and even revenge. So they shows the depth of their fear and anger. And they voiced one great wish. And what is it? One wish that Helen should never come home safe. Helen should never reach Sparta safe. And that is their only wish. And that wish actually heightens the sense that gods do not listen to the prayers of humans, that they are, as Hecuba stated earlier, unknowable. Because the women's suffering is undeniable. And we know that the worst is still to come. So here, they have got only one wish, and they are praying to God that Helen shouldn't reach back to Sparta, to her own home and hearth safely. And also stresses that, dear gods, let her never come home safe to Sparta, never repossess that bedroom in her own house in hearth, never come again to the village. So look at that never, that the word never is repeated. That shows the intensity of their anger and fear. To emphasize their anger and fear, that word never is repeated, that she should never repossess, never come home safe. 3 times, it is repeated twice. This woman whose promiscuity, whose indulgences in sensual pleasures, this woman whose promiscuity shamed Greece and stained the pure waters of Simois with blood. It has stained the waters of Simois with blood. How many soldiers have lost their life? No, no more agony. Our land is under the whip. The next stroke falls while we still bleed from the last. The next stroke falls. So that's what the women's suffering is undeniable. The worst is still to come. That's what they are saying. Yes, yes, you may weep, women of Troy, but the worst is still to come. The worst is still to come. They are bringing, and it's a reference to Astyanax's death. They are bringing Astyanax's body cast like a stone by the Greeks from the towers of Troy. So that's why the chorus says that the worst is still to come, because they are bringing Astyanax's body cast like a stone by the Greeks from the towers of Troy. One last thing that you need to remember from the chorus's Stasimon is that when the chorus actually shift the language, when they apostrophize means addresses, when they apostrophize Zeus and they assert that all the ritual observances have gone, they are pointless, that point is actually reinforcing what Poseidon said in the prologue. What did Poseidon say? When a town is destroyed, all worship cease. And that's exactly what we could see here, and that's what we could hear from chorus. And the chorus says that, where is that? All the sacrifices are over, no more hushed singing. So that parallels with, or that actually reinforces Poseidon's warning in the prologue that when a town is destroyed, all worship cease.